Welcome to Our Voices. Today is March 28th. I have two episodes. This is the first part of today's episode. I have with me Miss Selina Vickers. She is with the Citizens and Reformer of the Democratic Party. Selina, how are you today?
I'm great, Ray. Thank you for having me.
Good. Again, thank you for coming on the show. It is an honor to have you on here. I know that you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the Democratic Party, and we're going to ask some questions concerning about the Democratic Party. But before I go to my questions, Selina, please tell the audience something about Ms. Vickers.
Oh, okay. Well, I live in Fayette County, just literally feet from the new national park, the newest national park, New River National Park. And I love it here, and married and have one daughter. And I have been focused on Democratic Party reform, both nationally and within the state for basically for the last 6 years. And have been able to make some changes. Certainly there's a lot more to make. And I'm a firm believer that we have a two-party system, whether you like it or not. And if you want to have better leaders and a better government, you have to have better political parties. And so I hope it's not the most exciting topic in the world, but I hope to be able to share some information that will be helpful to people.
Now, I know not only you're going to share information, you're going to share some knowledge. I know you will, because you got it in you. You got that fire in you. Let's get started with some questions. Selina, in your opinion, describe the state of the Democratic Party now.
As a whole?
Yes.
Nationally, I think the Democratic Party is not in a good situation. I think that there's a lot of reasons behind this. But corporate money that funnels into parties and basically determines which person will be the nominee is a really, really critical thing that happens. Not enough grassroots input into the running of the party. There are, and I tend to, I tend to get into the weeds about things, but if you want a better party, you have to have really good leadership, and you need to have leadership that's going to listen to the grassroots and listen to the issues that affect people. And it needs to be more than just throwing a bone. I am a firm believer that the Republican Party has went off the deep end. And I think that the best hope right now that we have for America and for West Virginia is the Democratic Party. With that said, the Democratic Party is not perfect. And I don't say that to tear it down. I say that because I want to inspire people to get involved and to build it up. But I have a lot of concerns about the Democratic Party.
Selina, do you feel that the Democratic Party can it be as extreme as the Republican Party, and if so, how?
Oh wow, that's a really good question, and I think that question is very much in the eye of the beholder. Depending on who you ask and where they are, it will depend on how they answer that question. Where I sit, no, I don't. I think that the extremely violent and abusive behaviors that seem to be and verbiage that seems to be sort of like just come out of people who are leaders in the Republican Party, I just almost cannot make sense of it. Some of the efforts, the laws that are being passed in Republican-led state legislatures, including West Virginia, are quite horrific. I I don't see the Democratic as a whole being that extreme, although I will say whoever's in power tends to, nobody is perfect when they're in power. When you're in power, you run bills that will benefit you, as well as, you know, hopefully your base as well. So I think, you know, in general, I think that the Democrats are not nearly as divisive and, you know, as the Republican Party, but still, again, it's definitely in the eye of the beholder.
Do you feel that, okay, now we both know that the Republican Party, they're all about power. They will go after it by any means necessary. My question to you is, do you feel that one of the Achilles for the Democrat Party is once they win their election, they get into their comfort zone and, you know, basically just dig their heels in the sand and don't budge? Do you feel that?
I don't know. I think that it's hard to answer that because there are so many different people. And I think that really depends on who's elected. I really do. So I don't think I can answer that as well as probably you would like. But I can think of some Democrats who don't do that at all, and I can think of some who do. So it really just depends.
On a national level, you know, historically, the Republican Party is all about conservatism, okay, and fiscal spending. And they say that the Democrat Party spends money like, you know, a drunken sailor. Well, that's not the case here lately. We can go back as far as the Reagan administration. But looking at, and let's come a little more close to recent. When Clinton was in office, when he left office, there was a surplus of $238 billion. And when George W. Bush stepped in, and when he left office, there was no surplus. It was a deficit of $154 billion in the red. In comes Obama, and basically he dug out, you know, got the train out the ditch. And then we look at Donald Trump, he ran up $8 trillion worth of debt. So you say, you know, and some folks say, well, you know, where your principles, Republican Party, because you're saying fiscal spending, don't spend a lot, don't spend money, but yet you're spending money like a drunken sailor. And then when a Democrat comes into office, it's a matter of, oh, look what they did, look what they did. You know, the Democratic Party has to clean the mess up. What are your thoughts on that when it comes to, do you feel that the Democratic Party is now taking the role of being conservative?
Oh, I don't know, but one thing that, I mean, and I'm certainly not an expert on all of that at all, but I will say something that I have learned through being involved in politics is that when they talk about messaging, you know, what's the message? It's almost always a lie, or it's somewhere close to a lie, and it doesn't matter which party it is. Political party leaders think that their bases are stupid, and they will tell you whatever they think that will get you to vote for them. And so, you know, I in life and in politics, don't believe anything that somebody tells you. Believe what they do. And if we could train everybody to do that, you know, to look at people's behavior, not at the fancy flyers that come out, not at the fancy speeches, not at the tweets, look at their actions and make your decisions based on the actions of the leaders, we would be in a much better country.
Now, Selena, I know that we're talking politics, and I know, and we're wrapping up Women's History Month, and I'm going to get to, you know, girl power. I'm going to get to it. Okay, stick with me. Looking at the state level right now, because again, you mentioned one of your heroes about Fannie Lou Hamer. We're going to come to that. Let's look at the state level as far as politics and how important is it for people to vote, especially women, because um, to me, I believe women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. You may disagree. I'm sorry. I believe women women put Joe Biden in office. So looking at politics on the state level here, how, and of course, the Democratic Party has been in control for 83 years, and we know what went wrong. How can we change it? Because again, you all are the leaders of the Democratic Party. How can we change it?
Well, I don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you what I think an answer is. I think, and let me just say, even though we have a two-party system, I feel like West Virginia has one party, and that's the fossil fuel party. And there's two sort of factions of the fossil fuel party. But the people in leadership, they're always connected to fossil fuels, almost always. And that was when Democrats were in the leadership, and certainly the same now with Republican leadership. And I think that building a Democratic Party that is accessible and accountable to, and I'll say women, but I really mean anybody, to workers, to families, to children, to women, to voters, to people who can't vote, to build a platform that literally is addressing the needs of the people of the state in terms of everything, education and jobs and infrastructure and healthcare and on and on and on. And I think that we have to bring people into the party. We have to build the party, and we have to make room for that. And people that run parties don't want that. They want you to vote. They really want you to vote. And they'd like you to make some phone calls and knock on doors, but to come to the table and say, this is what our party stands for. This is the message that we want to give people. These are the policies and the laws that we want you to pass if you're elected. We want you to run so that you can get these policies. They don't do that. Like, how many times has anybody approached you and said, we want you and a group of people to come together and help build this party and what we're going to do? It doesn't happen. So I don't think it's the be all end all. I think you have to have money and lots of other things. But at bottom, we have to build a party that brings people in, gives them a real opportunity to lead, to be a part of something, and encourage those people even to run for office. Those are the people. If you want, for example, if you want better laws for people with disabilities, you know what you do? You get people with disabilities involved in the party, and then you get them, involved in working for people who are running for office, and then you eventually get them running for office. And that's when it happens. When you have somebody on that House floor with a disability talking from personal experience and introducing bills, that makes a difference. Not that knocking on doors doesn't make a difference, but that's the real, in my opinion, the way to significant change. And I don't see us doing that in West Virginia, and I don't see us doing that hardly anywhere in the Democratic Party, and I don't see them doing it in the Republican Party either. It's run by very, very powerful people in very close situations, and until we change that in both parties, we're going to keep getting what we what we got.
Selina, this past legislative session, it has been on the attack of people of color, especially women. The abortion ban, the Crown Act, and that is a hot topic here in the nation. I know some cities here in West Virginia have passed the Crown Act. But the state as a whole is still fighting to not pass it. Why? I mean, just you tell me.
Because Black people are not the base of the Republican Party. I mean, they're doing their best to try to, in my opinion, they're using race as a divisive issue. They're trying to throughout the nation make it harder for people to vote, and it just so happens that the people who they're making it harder to vote are Black people, brown people, people of low income. They like the division. Why would they do anything to empower or help a group of people that they're trying to take power away from it? It's just a political game.
What about white women?
They don't care about that either.
I don't get it, because like I said, it's like the attack on women across the board.
Yeah, the pro-life movement, I mean, it's anything divisive, anything that they can say, you're over here and other people are over here and you're better because of these people. I mean, there's no effort of trying to find common ground of what works for everybody. That's not on the table. It's not on the table. And every now and then you'll see little glimpses of it, and it's kind of nice, but not very often. It's not the political climate that we're in. It's not helpful to the people in power to empower other people. I mean, it's just not.
Selina, you mentioned that you have a hero, Miss Fannie Lou Hamer. She was a trailblazer as far as reshaping the Democratic Party. Before I go to my questions about Fannie Lou Hamer, I want folks to see this video right here.
Will explain Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Rooseville, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stinnett. If the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America?
We will return to this.
Okay. Selina, what are your thoughts on Fannie Lou Hamer and how much she means to you, and how much does she mean to the party as a whole today?
Great question. So I just want to say, like, I didn't learn anything about Fannie Lou Hamer when I was growing up. I knew nothing about her. As I was becoming more involved in politics, occasionally I would hear her name and it would be kind of thrown out with, you know, people like Fannie Lou Hamer and Shirley Chisholm, but like I didn't know her story. And so I ended up, through some of the challenges and work that I was doing to try to improve the West Virginia Democratic Party, needing to go back into sort of like the archives of the Democratic Party and learn about how some of the rules that are currently in place, but often not followed, how that happened. And so I learned the story about Fannie Lou Hamer, who was just a sharecropper in Mississippi. And can you imagine, you know, that life in the 1950s and 60s, and she wanted a different life for herself and for her community. And SNCC was, you know, the Freedom Riders, they were, you know, down in Mississippi, and they're trying to get people registered to vote. And she knew that to change her community and her life, that when she had the opportunity, she wanted to be involved with them. And she just turned out to be such a natural leader. And her wanting to be a part of the Democratic Party, that's all she wanted. And it, like, in that video, I mean, it breaks my heart. Like, she talked about wanting to be a first-class citizen, you know, to be able to vote. And, you know, and then people, I mean, she literally was almost beaten to death for the crime of wanting to register to vote. And she and Dr. King and some other people, they went to this 1964 Democratic National Convention, and they challenged the all-white delegation that was sent from Mississippi. And she told her story. She had 15 minutes. And in 15 minutes, she changed the course of history. And in the Democratic Party, because of her testimony, and it took a while, I mean, it didn't happen that second, but that convention passed a resolution mandating that future conventions would have to have somewhere akin to, you know, desegregated delegations, that they had to include women and youth and Black people and brown people. And there was these commissions that were put in place. I'm getting ways again. There was these commissions that were put in place, and they came up with this thing called the 6 basic elements to an open party, because the Democratic Party said, you know, we're the open party. We're the party for the Black people, for the brown people, for women, for youth. We're that party. But they were not doing. It was just words. There was no actions behind it. And so these 6 basic elements were like, okay, if you're going to be an open party, you have to have open meetings. You can't discriminate against people. You have to publicize the time and date of your meetings. When you have elections at any level, this is not just the national people and the delegates to the National Convention, but like the county executive committees, the state executive committees, all the precinct level. Everywhere throughout the party, you have to let people know when you're having meetings. You have to let people know when there are positions that they can run for. And the whole point of it, and there's this whole document called the Democratic Choice that came out of one of these commissions. And they said, it's not enough because at that time, people got to be delegates to the convention, often by like a governor just appointing them, you know. And they said, it's not good enough for a governor to hand select a few Black people, you know, and they called it tokenism, to pick a couple Black people and put them in the delegation and say, hey, you know, they have power, because that's not where real power is. The real power is all throughout the party and the processes by which you build up to then being able to choose the people who go to the National Convention. So again, very much in the weeds, but because of her testimony and the really torture that she went through, the end result was it fundamentally changed the Democratic Party and really kicked the door open to those back smoke-filled rooms and said, everybody has to have a fair chance to participate in this party. And the reason, and I'm going on a little bit, but the reason, the second part of your question is, how is that relevant today? With all that happened back in 1964, and these rules that were put in place, and a charter that was passed in 1970 that said that every state party had to have an affirmative action program. I know that's old language, but that's the language that was used at that time. Every state party had to have an affirmative action program so that, you know, different diversities, LGBTQ, Black, Brown, you know, women, blah, blah, blah. Everybody would have a fair opportunity to participate in the party and be proportional, you know, have proportional representation. And as far as I know, and I've done a lot of digging, when I started really looking into this back in 2018 and 2019, not one Black person was on the state executive, the West Virginia State Executive Committee, not one. And even though there was supposed to be an equal number of men and women, on the state executive committee, there were 9 more men than women, and almost every one of them was in an officer position. And boy, it took a big old fights. I mean, really, like not fights, but, you know, fights on paper, lots of paper.
Right, I understand.
Okay, here's the rules, and da da da. I mean, and we're in a much better situation now, but I mean, that's the reason it's still relevant, because people need to know the rules. And they need, when they see that the rules are broken, they need to be willing to step in and say, hey, this is not an open situation. This is not a fair situation for people to participate in. And the rules are always described to you as for the people in power to stay in power, always, always, always. And if you don't know the rules and you're not willing to stand up, you'll never be able to get anything. And that is, I mean, that's life, that's anywhere you go. But I think it's very significant point in the Democratic Party. And Fannie Lou Hamer is, she blazed that trail.
We've gone from the national scene to the statewide scene and the local scene. But you have something that you want to share, right?
I do.
Because we talk about the party, we talk about the executive, West Virginia Executive Democrat Party. So please show how the makeup as far as like who's on the list, and please explain to the viewers what that means.
Okay, so we were talking earlier, and I wanted to give an example of how people can be involved in the party and how important it is. And people don't, I mean, they just literally do not pay attention to party politics, and we should. So I hope that you can see that. So what this is I looked at, you're in Kanawha County. So Kanawha County, they have their county executive committee, and this is, all the names on here are people who are running for the Kanawha County Democratic Executive Committee. There are, I think, 74 or 72 seats, right? And so everything in bright yellow are seats that nobody bothered to file for. Like those are vacant seats. Now the election's not until the primary, and I think it's May 10th or May 12th, something like that. But then after that, they'll have an organizational meeting, probably the last part of June, and they are required. Now they probably won't do it, but they are, what they should do, and what the bylaws say that they do is fill these vacancies before they elect their chairperson. Okay, and so you know, everybody who ran, except the people in orange, this Ty Robb and Rick Staten, they're 2 people who are running for the 2A seat. Other than that, everybody on here that ran is going to be elected. And then all those bright yellow are vacancies. And if people would, you know, learn, you know, where they can run and recruit people to run, they literally, there are more bright yellow than there are people who are running. And you could go in and you could have a significant voice in your Kanawha County Executive Committee. Now I'm going to click this. Can you see a different chart now? right?
Yes, yes. Please explain to folks
Yep.
this right
So
here.
this, yeah, so this is the list of the executive districts. Those things I just showed you are by district. So every one of these, one A, B, blah, 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 over to 1J. Each one of those, they elect a male and a female, and that these districts are made out of these precincts. So when you call up your county clerk, or when you look on the Secretary of State website and look at your look at your voter information, it'll tell you your precinct. And there's also a map on the Secretary of State's website that will give you your precinct. But when you find your precinct, and let's say you're in precinct 184, and so you're in 1J, and so you come back over here and you look to see 1J. Look, 1J, male and female, both of those are vacant. And so you can, or so people can look themselves. And if somebody is very interested, what they could do is really make an effort of like contacting their friends and say, hey, like, we want to be involved in the Democratic Party, and here's a really good way. I mean, literally almost anybody who shows up will probably be elected. And anyway, so I think that I'm going to stop sharing now, but and I can send you the link to that if you want to post that for people, right? But it's that simple. Now, the other thing that I think that I wanted, you and I were kind of talking about this before, is about can it be intimidating to be involved? Yes, it can sometimes. Sometimes you'll go into a group and they're like, hey, we're so glad that you're here. And sometimes you'll go into the group and, it's very obvious that you're not wanted. When you are not wanted, that's when you're most needed. And they have lots of rules and things like that. But I would really encourage people like not to get intimidated by the rules. They go by this thing called, you have your bylaws, but you also have Robert's Rules of Order, which, a lot of people don't like, but it's just sort of like an order. It's kind of like when you go to church, everybody knows when to stand to sing, or when you sit to pray, or, when you have special guests, or when you take the offering. There's just different times. There's a time to speak. There's certain places you park, certain places you don't park. I mean, there's just like rules, and it's just, you learn it over time, or you can even take some classes and learn it, but it's quite powerful. And I would love to see historically underrepresented people be more involved in the Democratic Party as a whole. And I think that if we do that over time, we will have a party that works harder to for us, and that's what my hope is.
Selina, I'm pretty much done. I'm pretty much, you fed me a lot of information tonight. I'll thank you. But before I go, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, because again, we're at the end of Women's History Month, and your knowledge you shared again is very helpful. And I hope someone takes heed to what you just said, and I hope they run with it and make a difference here in the state of West Virginia. I hope that happens. Before I let you go, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to give the last word. If there's anything that I did not ask, if I did not we didn't cover, you have the last word. Go for it. You ready?
Sure. Well,
all yours.
All right. Well, first, I just want to thank you so much for having me. You and I kind of got to know each other a few months ago, and I love getting your texts, and because we always sort of like pick each other's brains about whatever political issue was going on at the time. We did a lot of communicating over the legislative session, especially about horrible bills, and so I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about like this again. Like, probably a lot of people think this is really boring, but I think it's so important. I think as much as people hate politics, and I kind of hate politics too, politics is a part of our life, whether we like it or not. And the more involved we are, the more opportunity we have to move politics in a direction of helping, our families and our communities. So and even on top of that, party politics is, it's not for everybody, but I'm a firm believer that if we're going to have a better government, we have to have a better party, because your next state senator, your next governor, your next president is going to be a Democrat or Republican. I mean, whether you like the two-party system or not, that's what we have. And in very, very rare cases, does an independent or a third party elected. I mean, 99.999% of the time, it's going to be Republican or Democrat. And if you want that Republican or Democrat to be responsive to your family and your community, being involved in a political party is going to help you help that further. And again, it takes time. I do want to mention that one of the reforms that we were able to get passed last night is having 9 diversity caucuses of the Democratic Party. Probably I didn't write them all down because I'm white, but Asian Americans, LGBTQ, Black, Hispanic, youth, Native American, people with disabilities, women, seniors. I think that's all of them. I might have missed one. But anyway, these are diversity caucuses, and it's a direct way for people to be involved in the Democratic Party, as well as having, the opportunity to do, county committees and different things like that. But again, I really encourage people to be involved. It's a really important way to make a difference. And of course, when you have an opportunity to run, please either run or encourage other women or Black Americans, Hispanics, LGBT, people who are historically underrepresented. We need our legislature and our elected officials to look like America, and we need I think diversity brings an enormous amount of just an advantage. I think diversity brings an advantage to all of us. And so having lots of ideas and lots of types of people at the table that are willing to roll up their sleeves and do the real work of the people is good. So that's my hope for people. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to share this time with you, Ray.
All right, Miss Selina Vickers, thank you very much for coming on Our Voices. You take care and be safe, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to the second part of Our Voices. I have a special guest with me. She is a local legend. In my book, she is. She is Miss Gloria James Richmond. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did. Throw a Spencer in there. Gloria Spencer James Richmond.
Gloria Spencer James Richmond.
Yes.
I got to put some respect on your name.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you.
Good, good, good. I know that you and I were both in mourning right now because we have a good mutual friend Mike Jones, who passed away
Yes.
at a young age. And again, my condolences to his family, and also to your church family, because you do go to the same church at Ferguson.
Yeah. Yes.
To your condolences to your church and to his fraternity of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated.
Thank you.
Before I get to my questions, please tell the audience something about Miss Gloria Spencer James Richmond.
Well, Miss Gloria James Spencer James Richmond, also known as Aunt Glo, Mama, Granny, has always been a community name and personality. Most of the young men and ladies around here, I have either raised or had some dealings with them. In fact, that's my lifetime work. I never miss a game. I never miss anything that I can attend if I can do it. I did 30 years of manna meals with my family. We served the 4th of July by ourselves. We've served over 300 some people. And we did that for 30 years. Secondly, I have brothers and sisters, which I have given my time to with all my heart. There's 4 of us left. And those who have gone before us, we can still remember, but that's my life. People are my life. I think that's what I should just say, people.
Yes, you are. And I know that you and I, we go back and forth. Sometimes we cut up and
yeah,
and I know that sometimes you give me a look to kind of say, okay, Ray, let's stop it now.
Yeah, we've had enough. Yeah,
we had enough.
Yeah.
And especially at the games, I hear some people say, "Oh, she is so loud. She's so loud," and I tell them, I say, "That's Miss Gloria. That's who she is."
And when I don't, they worry about me. So you can't have it both ways. Even the referees tell me to scream.
You ready to get to work with questions?
I'm sorry.
Are you ready to get to work with the questions?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yes, I am.
Okay. You again, you have done something that is unheard of. I know that there's a such thing as a glass ceiling, where women try to break that to move ahead or move up in the workforce. When I had my radio show, I remember giving you your flowers for what you have accomplished.
Yes, you did.
And now, because I'm doing a podcast, now I get to do a video interview with you.
Thank you.
Please tell the audience what you have accomplished.
First of all, in 2 more days, I will reach 75 years old. And that is a milestone. That is a gift from God. Secondly, I have 3 children, Janetta, Maritza, and John. And I have lovely grandchildren. I have a host of brothers and sisters and nieces that I love. And most of all, I love you, Ray. As you said, we go around, but when I look at you, and I know I'm not that much older, but I hope I mentor to you and we discuss things. Mm-hmm. And it's done with heart and with love. And that's the kind of person I am. I don't think there's a parent out there that know I will do their children as I do mine. So that's one of my things that I'm proud of. Secondly, I raised 3 children. I had to work day and night. I had to be on the job sometimes with other men. And I had to carry my weight. And that first started out being just a labor. Then in 78, there were job offerings. There were pipe fitters, riggers, electricians, mechanical. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know anything about this. But that night I had fixed as I call it, a little J thing underneath my sink. So I thought, oh, I think I can do this. I'll be a pipe fitter. Oh, how did I know not what I was doing? But I did it. I went, they sent me to school. We started out at Ben Franklin. From Ben Franklin, we went into the plant. And the best thing I think of all, Ray, I've always been this size until I had surgery to lose weight, but I gained it back. I was made to work, not mean-wise, but I was told, you chose this, this is what you're gonna do. And that wasn't by the people at work. That was my mom talking in the back of my head. Do your best. Whatever you do, do your best. And there were days I would write down what they would tell me, because they would say, this is a nipple. Okay, a nipple meant it was a little short piece of piping, and I'd come home and write that down. Or whatever they told me, I wrote it down because I wanted it in my head. So when I went to work the next day, I made sure I could do what they told me to do. I had been in ditches. I had went through a pipe rack, and my pants was back there and I was up here, but they never said a word. They kept me going. My children, they would call home and tell them, John, your mother said she's got to work over, but this is what you had to do. So it was rough because I had one boss to ride his bicycle between my legs. And I told him, I said, when I hit you with this pipe wrench, you're going to have to explain what happened. So it wasn't always easy. I went to work with my dress on, my earrings on. When I came out the locker room, I had my work clothes on because they were two different things. But nobody knew, because I wouldn't let them know. I had too much pride for that I cried at times. I cried because I thought, how am I going to carry all this up to these tanks? But God made a way. I carried my stuff up there. And then I was also a rigger. And the best part about that, I had Bully Meadows, I had Mo Pendleton, I had Dave Cole, I had Joe Booker. They were all in my corner. I had Gus. I had Joe Warden. I had Jeff Means was my boss, and that's another story. But anyway, I learned from that. And then there was such a thing as being an upgrade supervisor. Well, who would have thought? They asked me to upgrade. Upgrade meant that I did what the boss would do. Now, to some people, that was not heard of. That was just not heard of. I remember when Michelle was a engineer, I got some of that work down to the plant. And I had to assign people to do those jobs. These were $1 million jobs that they put in my care. And I was, for the guys, black and white, to listen to me and for them to trust me. Now, I don't know whether it was trust or checking me out, but either way it was, I was going to succeed. And I did. So I was a pipe fitter, I was a rigger, and then I was a supervisor. That helped, people complained about the plant, but that helped me raise my children. And today I still get calls. I get texts. I even had a boss who I never thought even looked at me. He would say, Gloria, I would stand behind a tank just to watch you and see what you would do, because I thought you would fail. This man never liked anybody, but he made a point to make sure he got in touch with me. Those little things mean so much. Then I had one guy who was in HR. And that's when, the short, hey, bruh, and all that stuff came out. And he greeted me one morning. I said, excuse me. I said, were you talking to me? He said, yes. I said, well, excuse me. I don't speak that way. And you don't know me well enough to speak that way. So there were so many things that I had to input that nobody knew. Nobody knew. Locker rooms, they didn't even have locker room for women when I came out there. The men were still urinating behind the tanks. But I had to realize I was in a man's world. But I made them respect me, but I also respected them because white men hadn't been around black people, especially a black woman. Well, they was in for a true awakening. But through it all, that was one of my most memorable and most humbleness. I think I made them humble and me also, and wouldn't trade it for anything.
Miss Gloria, when we look at, how should I put it, the work environment Has there ever been a time where you were mistreated badly because of either you're Black and or because you're a woman?
Yes, that was one of the things I said. That was the barrier I had to break. When you come into the plant and there's not even a bathroom for you to use. And that wasn't just me, that was all the women. We had nowhere to go. They had to create, even though now we were working there, they knew women had to come. But that in 78, 76 is when the influx of women came into the plant. It was that our reckoning that this is what you will do. So it was that. And even at the bosses looking at me differently. One telling me this is what you will do, whether I wanted to or not. But in the same token, I refused. I refused to be played down when I know that I was better than that. I had even been wrote up and sent to Danbury. I mean, it was so much. And then they would give me jobs that they think I would fail at. They don't understand. I wouldn't shed a tear, but I did it. I was in pain, but I did it. The one word, there was a labor. He didn't know anything. He couldn't even read or write. And for some reason, I got close to him. His name was Cannonball. And Cannonball would water you down with hoses, which was illegal before OSHA came in. And he didn't have teeth, and his kids would beat him before he come to work. And I would see him in the morning, and I would have a sandwich, and I would lay it there. And when I come back, the sandwich was gone. Well, Cannonball worked another maybe 15 years. And some people don't understand this, except the guys at work did. And I had bought him some new coveralls and things. And he looked at everybody, and he says, "This is the first nigger I have ever loved." Now, to some people, even today, they would look on that as bad. But Ray, he did not have education. He was white. He was not, no one cared about him because he didn't have money. He was worse thought of as a white man than I was as a Black man. But he had enough compassion to express to me how he felt. Whereas those who were supposed to be so educated at Carbide, they shunned me. They didn't give me the right passage that I should have had. So, like the boss riding a bicycle, think he can ride a bicycle between my legs. Like my tools. I have some tools, but I'm asking for others. They would say, "No, we bought you tools." But you know what I did? I kept going. And I would ask my other guys, and the guys loved me. They took care of me like anything. They said, "Whatever you need," that was the white or Blacks, "we'll give it to you." But even though they were doing that, I'm the one had to carry the butt. I had to make sure myself, I was respected as a female, and I was respected as a worker. I had to make sure Black people, they think we're lazy. I had to overdo. I had to get in holes at night. I had to, it was so much. And you had nobody else to talk to. There were no others to talk to. Now, some of the other people we had, there was Hattie, who was a carpenter. I wish I could get the ones who were first in what they did there. But I was the center. And I had to be more than I knew. I had to pull out all those things my mom would tell me. You can do all things through Christ. And I used that. I used that in everything I did because I knew I'm going to do this. No, and I didn't need to be patted on the back for it because I knew one day, and over there, my initials is in a whole lot of stuff over there that they haven't torn down. I made sure I left a record. Gloria, Spencer, James, 1978, 1979. No one would see it, but I knew. I knew. I had made some Black person and the Black guys, I made them proud. They
Mhm.
had a Black woman working with them and she worked. She didn't slack. Oh, but that's what makes you look back and say, I'm grateful.
Miss Gloria, what was the pay like?
Well, the pay wasn't bad. I got the same pay, but on thing when I look now, there was a time when I was doing upgrade, I should have gotten the upgrade money that supervisor was getting. But you don't learn that till, when you leave work and there's all these people filing suits of, if they're going to do that job, then they need your pay. But that time we didn't know that. It didn't know that. So where I was making $15 an hour, they kept paying me that $15 an hour, even though I was doing a supervisor's job who was a set salary. But we didn't know. And I don't, you know what? I don't even know whether I thought about that part. I just knew it was a job I had to do. And I was going to get, I may have gotten maybe $2 or $3 upgrade on it. But since you said that, Ray, I don't think I really took the pay issue. I just knew I had a job to do. And this job was an extension of what I was doing. And I knew I had to do a good job.
So you got decent pay from Carbide.
Yes.
It started out disrespectful, then it became respectful.
I made it respectful because I respected me. I respected my heritage. I respected my name. And I respected you are a Black person. You're going, I understand. I accepted that I was a Black person. I had to do more. I had to be, if I was going to be front and center, I had to be bold and be front and center. And that's what I did.
So were there any backlash to you being, can I say bold? I mean, I mean, again, you're being who you are. Was there any backlash to just being, say, not outlandish or being loud or anything?
Well, I was in a meeting once, and one of the department heads, that's when we were having another little turnover, and they had made a statement about something that happened at one of the plants. And I stood there and I took it as long as I could. And then finally I stood up, I said, excuse me, but I have to differ with you. What you're telling people is a lie. Now, this was the man from Danbury. And my boss looked at me. I said, no, I'm going to say what I got to say. I said, because he's lying. The equipment that he's talking about has been messed up for years. Well, they shut me down. Of course, I was called in. And they told me, you had no right. I'm thinking, what do you mean I had no right? You should have been quiet. That was not your business. Which I think they looked on, at that time, things would hit you. What do you mean it wasn't my business? What do you mean I should keep quiet? So that was some of the backlash. I had a tendency to speak, and they thought I should not speak unless I was spoken to. When this phone is messing up somebody. Are you there, Ray?
I'm here.
All right. And I think that was my worst thing. I could not keep quiet. Not and when you call that loudness, I call that there was times I wanted not to say something. But that wasn't me. I couldn't change me to be what they wanted me to be. So whatever backlash I got, there was some. I was given some of the jobs on the flume, or I was put somewhere else that nobody else was there with me. But you know what? Look at me. I made it.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Ms. Gloria, so you became supervisor. And I'm sure at that point when you became a supervisor.
Now, it wasn't a permanent, that was an upgrade. It was an
Okay,
upgrade.
an upgrade. You know, some call it the HIC. You know? So, you know, I'm not going to spell out all the letters, but you know what I'm talking about. How did the folks, your coworkers there, how did they treat you? Were there a sense of jealousy because they have to answer to you?
I still, that question was asked about 4 months ago. And I hate to keep bringing up Joe Warden, but Joe texts me all the time. And he says, we had so much respect for you. And he's white. Said we didn't mind working for you because I had been where they still was. I was where they were. I was just up here a little bit to see that the work was done. I didn't try to tell them their job because they knew their job. But I had to tell them a time frame we need to get the job done. And I had fun working with my guys and my ladies because they knew that whatever they would do, I would do. Now, there was some that thought they could get away. And those are the ones that I said, excuse me, I'm upgraded right now. We need to have a conversation. And that was black and white. I said, oh no, we got to have a conversation. You can't use me because this is my money, your money, and the company's money. And that, I mean, it wasn't anything hostile. Except one time that one of the guys did, I was up on top of the tank and he took the ladder away and something could have happened to me and he was gone for about an hour and a half. And I was stuck up on that tank. And where we were working at, anything could have happened. Whether he did it on purpose or not. But you can believe he heard from it once I got down. I don't think he would ever do anybody else like that again. But little things like that, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Ms. Gloria, you started at the bottom, you climbed your way up to the top, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I know again you're all about family.
Yes.
You're all about family, and was there ever a time where you felt that you had to put work in front of family?
Well, good you asked that question too. I was working overtime and the police came to the plant to get me. Well, you know, that commercial on on TV says, if you're left alone, that's when they first came out with that call. Well, Janetta, my oldest daughter, called the police and said that they were home by themselves. Well, the police came and got me from the plant and brought me home, which now, mind you, where we live at, there is family. You can't walk 2 feet without running into family. But she chose to call the police. They brought me home and I looked at them and I told her, I said, either you will do as I tell you to do, Mr. Policeman, now you got to do what you got to do, but I got to do what I got to do. Because I'm a single parent. I got to raise my children. So either you go out of here and leave me alone and let me go back to work. Let me take care of her first. And they left. And then I did. She and I had a conversation. So that was one of the issues. Food-wise, you know, at that time, you still had bills you had to pay. You still had kids you had to take care of. And at that time, things were not easy. My life story, people know. I don't need to go over it. But I knew there was things I had to do, regardless of what, regardless of where we were, who we were with, or who had, but my children had safe haven. There was times there were not safe havens for them. But eventually things worked out, and family is all around. And I'm proud of my kids. I have all my children have graduated from college, all of them. John he works with the juvenile system. My daughter Jeanette is going back to nursing school. My daughter Marissa had also an educational degree. Right now she's working on getting herself back together again. So whatever I went through, there was a payoff. But sometimes I wonder about them. You know, we don't always show what damage we do, even at 50 or 60 years old. So you're hopeful that what you did, they understood, and what they didn't understand, that we can talk about it. So that's what I'm saying. We sometimes we don't see with these eyes, but later on we have to learn with the heart.
Miss Gloria, when you left Carbide, and again, this is something that a lot of folks don't want to do, is pipe fitting, because what they feel is a dirty job, is a strenuous job, is also a dangerous job.
Yeah.
And some people, when you factor in, okay, a woman doing pipe fitting, and yeah, I'll admit, some folks will say, you know what, a woman should not be doing that. But you defied the odds. You said, you know what, it's not going to stop me from learning and mastering this craft here of pipe fitting. So when you left Carbide, explain your emotion.
Well, when I left, I had been in the office at that time. But I look around now, and I try to grab, I was watching when they was doing the Planning Institute, and I'm thinking, there's job opportunity there. Ladies, go for it. Try it. I want these, I would love for some of them to get out of their safety mode and try something. You can do it, but you have to be willing to sacrifice now. Because right now, the legs don't move like they used to. The back can't do what it used to do. And I'm not saying that there won't be consequences, but I think what I have gained outweigh that. I would tell these young girls, it is first of all, you're going to get Social Security, you're going to get a pension, okay? You're going to get a pretty good pension. Get out there and try it. Encourage these young women. They have classes at West Virginia State University for electricians. Go for it. I know safety is in something, but give it a try. And oh, I wish I could just have a talk with some of these young girls and women out here and let them know you don't have to stay where you are. And it don't have to be pipe fitting. It can be anything that you set your mind to do, but you got to be willing to go through the fire. You got to be willing, because it's going to come. But the benefits outweigh it all. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And only thing I'm hopeful that when you meet someone and you, I meet guys from Carbide all the time, they'll say, oh, this is Gloria right here. This is the one we used to talk about. Oh, let me get one more thing in, Ray. Ray, I was in the hospital. And I was in there like for 100 some days. And men were coming in out of the room, white men coming in out of the room. And this lady in the room with me, she said, excuse me. And it was a white lady. She said, what kind of work do you do? And I was sort of a little bit facetious. I said, I'm a pipe fitter. Not knowing that lady did not know what a pipe fitter was. But I said that to read behind the joke what I'm saying. Anyway, that's what it was. Their wives would want to take the clothes. Tell Gloria to send her clothes. We'll wash her clothes for her. But so that's what I'm saying. What you think can be bad can turn out to be good. But you got to remember, don't give up who you are. Never sacrifice who you are. You never trade, not even for money. Don't even trade yourself for money. Because it don't work, because you still got to face yourself. When you get up in the morning, you got to look at yourself. And that's what I'd like to tell the young ladies out here. Go for it.
You know what? I was going to say, you know, I'm going to give you the last word. That sounds like that's your last word right there. But I have one three-part question. You're going to give words of advice to, what would you say to a 14-year-old girl?
A 14-year-old, first of all, would say, look at yourself. Write yourself a little note. This is who I am. This is who I want to be. And this is who I will be. This is just to you. You write it to yourself. And then you turn around and answer that question. And if it doesn't look right to you, rewrite it again. And let the word speak for itself.
Now, let's say she's a 21-year-old woman. What would you give her advice?
Yes, I would say this because I have them in my family. At this age, at 21 right now, so many things have happened in your life. But you don't have to be what it says you are. You have whatever, I don't care what you did. Put that behind you, put one foot in front of yourself. But I always put God first now, because you can't do it by yourself. And walk forward. Put that head up like you have done nothing and go for it. Because you're special. You're a queen. I don't care what anybody think you are. I'm telling you, you're a queen. You're a survivor. And right while we at that, your two kids call me Granny. And I love it. I love it. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
It's all right. It's all right. Last one. What type of advice would you give a 30-year-old woman?
Nowadays, that 30-year-old woman, I give the same ones at 21. Because some of the 30-year-olds still think they're 21. That you have to grow up. You have to know that we're your parent. We love you. But we can't always stand there with you. You've got to take the reins. Don't just because you got 2 or 3 children, drag them with you. Show them this is what I can do. My mama may not have did it for me because mama may not have knew how to do it for you. But here I am, and I'm going to do it. You may not know your name and other people may not know who you are, but you know who you are. You can look in that and say, I did it. If I didn't make but a half a step, I got up that morning, I did that half. The next day, I'm going to make a full. But 30, 35, you can do it. You are who you think you are.
Miss Gloria Spencer James Richmond, thank you very much for coming on Our Voices. You take care, okay?
And thank you for recognizing that I am who I am.
Don't go anywhere. Hold on for a second.